Hi, I'm Amy Romeo and welcome to my Faux Falloween Crafting Event where I'm bringing you a brand new faux leather craft for your Cricut every day for 10 days. Today's project is these really pretty and fun skull flower purse charms. So there's a flower here with some petals that lift up and have a little dimension with a little skull face, and the back of the faux leather can be printed or solid. This is a fold over keychain, so the front goes over the keyring onto the back. This gets glued together and then we'll glue on these additional layers. So this is really fun. You could use this as a keychain or as a purse charm and attach something like an optional tassel if you'd like. So I'll show you how to get the SVG for this project in just a moment, but first let's run through the tools and materials we'll be using. So I'll be using my Cricut Maker, but you can use any of the current Cricut machines because they all cut faux leather with the standard fine point blade that's included when you take your machine out of the box. Now, the faux leather that I'm using, you could use prints or patterns, but it's really important that it's nice and smooth for when you are applying your heat transfer vinyl on top. So for the background, I've used prints on all of these designs, and I'll leave links to all of these supplies for you. You could use a printed faux leather for the background, or you could use a solid. It's completely up to you. And then I'm just alternating the prints and the solids for some interest. Now, to press the heat transfer vinyl onto the faux leather, I'll be using my Easy Press Mini, which I love because it's very easy to press very small areas, but you could use a regular Easy Press if that's what you have on hand. Then you'll need a heat pressing pad of some kind and a cover sheet. This is a Teflon sheet that I've trimmed down to size, but you could use a cover sheet like butcher paper or parchment paper. Now, to cut the faux leather, I'll be using the purple strong grip mat that comes with the Cricut, and I'll use the green standard grip mat for cutting my vinyl. We'll also use some blue painter's tape with that purple strong grip mat. This is going to help us get good cuts. So some other things you'll need to have on hand. You'll need a weeding tool of some kind, either a pin pen or a hook weeding tool. It's up to you. I like having some small curved detail scissors, which are good for cutting up any little fuzzies that get on the edge of the faux leather. Then we'll need some glue to glue our Foldover keychain. I like to use Fabri-Tac, but you can use any good fabric glue. And then if you wanted to add an optional tassel, I do have these that have a little gold cap on the top. And what I did was I used a Sharpie marker and just recolored them so that the little cap would be black because I couldn't find any black capped tassels. So just keep in mind, if you already have faux suede tassels on hand, you can easily recolor them. And then this purse charm hardware comes in this black metal finish, but it's also available in a gold and a silver finish as well. Okay, so let's hop over to getting the SVG for this project, and then we'll get started. To get the SVG for this and all of the daily event projects, visit the event page at amyromeo.com/Falloween24 or click the link in the description. You'll also see the option to upgrade to the event VIP pass and get instant access to all of the daily event projects, bonus files, and more. Starting with a blank canvas and Cricut Design Space, you'll click on Upload and then Upload Image, and you'll browse to where the unzipped SVG file is for this project. Click on it to select it and then click Open. You'll see a preview of the keychain shape, then click Continue and then Upload. Now here you could see that the fold over keychain that I talked about, here's the front, and then this is that little tab where your key ring or the purse charm hardware will go on, and then here is the back. So this is going to fold over and be glued together. Now these layers are connected currently. Let me go ahead and just ungroup them so I can pull them apart and show you. So this design has 4 very simple layers. The back is that fold over part I mentioned. Again, you can cut it from solid or patterned faux leather, a print, any color you'd like. And then the little skull here is what we'll cut from heat transfer vinyl. I'll be cutting it from white glitter heat transfer vinyl, but you could use any color or type you'd like. And then these 2 flower layers will also cut from contrasting or coordinating colors of faux leather. So very simple. Let's go ahead and click the Make It button. We're cutting our materials on a mat. And the first thing we want to do is go through and toggle that mirror button on for each of these layers because faux leather and heat transfer vinyl cut in reverse. Now, if you wanted to use permanent vinyl for that little skull layer, you could certainly do that. In that case, you would not mirror that mat. Permanent vinyl is not mirrored where heat transfer vinyl is. So now I'm just going to go through my little mats, and I always like to pull my shapes away from the edges just a little bit. On the faux leather, that's important because the faux leather piece that we put down to cut will have some blue painter's tape around the sides. So you just want to give yourself some room for that. There we go. And I always like to cut the base layer of my faux leather projects first. So I'll click back here on this base layer for our purse charm, click continue. And for the faux leather layers in this project, I'll be using the faux leather paper thin setting. If you don't have this setting bookmarked as a favorite like I do, you can click on Browse All Materials and search for it. Keep in mind, if you're using the Explore Air 2, you'll need to turn your dial to custom before you can locate this setting in search. I'm going to go ahead and select that and then choose More for my pressure. That's really important when you're cutting faux leather with your Cricut. So I'll use this same setting for all 3 layers that are faux leather in this project. And then this vinyl mat, you will use the setting that corresponds with the vinyl that you're using. So I'll use the glitter vinyl setting for that mat. Okay, let's hop back over to my overhead camera. We'll get our mats cut out and then we will assemble our purse charms. So I've gone ahead and I've trimmed out the materials for my project, and I've cut my faux leather to a size that's just slightly larger than the shapes that need to cut. I did this by looking at the mat preview in Design Space and just kind of counting over the grid lines and seeing how large of a piece of material I needed. And this is important because the smaller the piece of faux leather that you can put down with tape all around, the less likely your material is to shift, and that's going to help us get good cuts. So I've trimmed all of my different layers here, including my heat transfer vinyl. I'm going to start with the largest faux leather piece first. So I'm going to put this pretty side down on my purple strong grip cutting mat, right in that spot that I saw in the mat preview screen. And then I'm just going to use some blue painter's tape, and I'm going to tape it down on all sides, again, to keep this material from shifting while it's cutting. These pieces of blue painter's tape can be lifted up and used over and over again, which is a great tip. Now I already have my faux leather paper thin setting with more pressure ready to go. So we'll just load our mat into the Cricut and begin the cut. So my cut has run one time, and before I unload the mat, I just want to use my sharp weeding tool, lift up the edge of the cut to see if the cut went all the way through. If it did, that's great. If not, don't worry. Many cuts need to be repeated more than once, and that's very easy to do as long as you haven't unloaded your mat. So if you wanted to rerun your cut again, you can just press the cut button and it will repeat the cut as many times as needed, as long as you don't press the unload button. But this one looks good, so I'm going to unload my mat, remove my shape, and here's that fold over design I was mentioning. So this is where our little purse hardware will go, and then we will glue these parts together. Okay, so I'm going to set this aside, and I'm just going to return to Design Space, finish cutting out my other 2 faux leather mats, and also my heat transfer vinyl mat. So now that I've gone ahead and cut out all of my layers for this project, I'm going to reset my work table here, bring over my heat press, and then I'll show you the next steps for finishing up these purse charms. So I'm all set to go with my Easy Press Mini preheated to that low setting. That's that first green line. If you're using a regular Easy Press, you can set it to about 265 degrees. Now I've already taken my little flower layers here and I've lined them up so that the petals sort of match each other. Let me show you what I mean. If I turn it this way, now you can do this any way you'd like. You can have the petals not match and line up. You could have them, be sort of interesting and different, or you can rotate this top petal until you get it to where you can see that the shape of the lower petal kind of mirrors the shape of the outer petals. It's totally up to you, but I just wanted to mention that so that you can figure this out before you start gluing your layers and also pressing your little skull. So I figured that part out. And the first thing we want to do is glue our fold over keychain so that we can get that going. And we want to start by putting our purse charm key ring, this large key ring here, through the middle. Now I'm calling this a purse charm hardware, but really it's just a key ring. It has a large lobster claw clasp, which is easy for looping it onto a purse handle, for example. And then there's a little swivel part here, and then there's a lobster claw clasp that you could attach a little tassel to, which I'll show you how to do. If you don't have a lobster claw clasp here at the bottom, then you can just use a jump ring. I recommend about a 10mm size jump ring. Now, if you don't have this purse charm hardware, that's no problem. You can do this exact same process with a regular, this is called a split ring key ring. So you can just put that on there in the middle and then attach a tassel if you'd like, again with a jump ring. Okay, so let's take our little purse charm hardware here. All I'm going to do is fold my little piece here, the other half, sort of fold it up and put it through, and then open it back again. Now here I'm using a printed faux leather, so you'll want to make sure which is the front and which is the back. On this one here, the little words say boo on this side, and on the back it's going to be upside down, so just pay attention for that. And now all I want to do is open this up again. Use a good fabric glue. I like Fabri-Tac because it doesn't go on very thick and clumpy like, let's say, a hot glue would, and it presses nice and flat, and it's very you can get a nice seamless edge because this will go all the way to the edge without any lumps or bumps underneath. So I'm just putting my glue all over the back. You want it close to the edge but not all the way to the edge. Don't get the glue on this bridge part or on the other side. That's not necessary. Now if you don't have Fabri-Tac, you could use something like Barely Art Glue. You'll just need a little more of it because that glue tends to absorb into the back of the faux leather. Now all I'm doing is folding over the keychain part, the top onto the bottom, and then you'll just want to take a minute to press it down all over with your hands. That nice thin glue is sort of pressing up to the edges. Now if it presses too far and a little bit comes out, just wipe that away with your fingers or with a damp paper towel, and that looks pretty good. So now I'm going to take this and put this underneath my heavy book. This is the key to getting a really nice firm seal, a tight seal on the edge of your glued keychain, is pressing this under the heavy book. While this is gluing, we can go ahead and press our little skull here. So again, I have my flower arranged the way I want it to be. We're just going to put our little skull here on the front. Keep in mind whatever color you use for the top flower layer will be the color that shows through for the skull, the eyes, and the nose. So I'll just move that out of the way. And this doesn't have to be exact. I'm just going to cover this with my little Teflon sheet and press for about 10 seconds. I'm just going to peel away this clear carrier sheet slowly. If when you're peeling your vinyl lifts up, just place that cover sheet right back down and press again. But that looks really good. Now normally I would say after heat pressing vinyl onto faux leather that you would want to put this under your heat pressing pad or a book to keep it nice and flat while it cools. But in this case, because it is little flower petals, I actually want to encourage that lifting and curling. So I think I'm just going to press this one, even though we're not putting any vinyl on it. I just want to press it for a few seconds to let it heat up and then encourage it also for those little petals and edges to curl. That adds some fun dimension to these little keychains. Let me show you. Now if you don't like that, you can glue the petals all the way down if you'd like, but I do think this adds a little bit of fun. Okay, so now that we have our two little layers here, now what I want to do is apply some glue here. And again, I want to encourage those petals to lift. So all I want to do is place my glue in the center of the bottom flower. I'm going to take my little top layer, place it on top, and I'm just pressing my finger in the center. Again, letting those petals curl and lift on the edges. I hope you can see how there's a little dimension and lift. There we go. So now imagine that we've let our keychain dry for about an hour underneath our heavy book. We've got that nice seamless edge. And again, all those edges will glue down when it's completely glued. You want to let this glue to be completely flat before you put your flower on top, because you don't want to press your flower underneath the heavy book, or that will mess up all your cute petals. So I'm just going to take my glue again, put it right in the center, and line up those little petals. And you can see the longer this sits, the more those little petals curl, which I think is really cute. So then you'll just let this dry. So if you wanted to let this dry with something heavy sitting on top, for example, just the glue bottle right in the center, you could do that. And then again, imagining it's dry, let me just show you how to attach that little tassel. Now, as I mentioned, this tassel actually is a silver top tassel that I have colored to be a dark color. And I first colored it all over with a Sharpie. And then I needed to get in some little detailed areas. So this is an acrylic paint pen. I was able to get inside the loop and things like that. Again, totally optional. So now I'm just going to open this bottom lobster claw clasp here, attach my loop, or again, I could use a 10mm jump ring to add this little tassel. And there we go. Here's a look at all of the little skull flower purse charms together. And I hope you enjoy this project. Remember, to get this and all of the SVG files for the Faux Falloween Crafting Event, visit amyromeo.com/Falloween24. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.